What's up, everybody? Dave, No Money MTG. After the pretty rough night last night on the ladder, I've decided to do something a tad bit different, but still productive for today. If you're relatively new to Arena, you may not already know about Midweek Magic. Starting on Tuesdays and running through usually early Thursday morning, so centered on Wednesday, there's these events every week called Midweek Magic. Regardless of the format, it's typically 3 wins to complete the event, and the first 2 wins will get you 1 card, which will at least be a rare or a mythic rare. For the 3rd win, it's usually a mystery cosmetic, which isn't super important for our purposes here, but at least it's better than nothing. You'll find them on the homepage as you see right here, Midweek Magic Momir for this week, and it'll tell you how much longer you have to sign up. Looking inside the event now, you can see it's free to enter, and as I mentioned, first 2 wins, you'll get 1 card that'll at least be a rare, and then for the 3rd win, which completes the event, you'll get a mystery cosmetic. This week's format is Momir. It's not my favorite, but it's going to net me free cards, so I'm going to do it. If you're not familiar with this format, it's pretty much something you can only play on Arena because you get cards that are randomized throughout Magic's history, and it's kind of a janky way to play. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take this opportunity while we grind out wins to get these 2 free rares to rant on a topic that I introduced in my episode 1 video where I explained the reasons for me starting this channel, because I haven't gone into much detail in any video since. But I think it's an important topic for new Magic players to understand. And it's not to discourage you from buying product or from investing into your Arena account, but to flesh out a little bit more for you what drove me to start this channel and why a fair bit of other Magic players have been a little frustrated over the last couple years. And I'd like to think many that are like me have decided that it's just a little bit too much. Thank you for bearing with me as I rant during these games. I hope you enjoy it for what it's worth. All right, let's get in here. For those who've never played Momir before, it's a deck that is all lands. You play lands. I cleaned up the scoreboard off the left side of the screen so you could see it. And you choose at what points you want to discard a card to generate a random card from Magic's history. So far I'm in a staring contest with my opponent here, but you see there's an emblem over here that if I click on this, I can decide to discard X cards and create a token. That's a copy of a random creature card with mana value X, activate as a sorcery and only once each turn. So I'm going to continue the staring contest here with my opponent. I don't really know what the optimum strategy is here. I just kind of wing it every single time. I think 3 drops are where it starts to get good enough. Where it starts to get good enough to start discarding cards. Alright, so I discarded a land and got a random 2/3 that creates a treasure token. That's pretty awful. Alright, well, now that I'm the only one with board presence, I am... Actually, you know what? That token's not bad. I can now ramp, essentially, pay 5 and discard a card and get a 5-drop. So now a 3/3 flyer, whenever this creature deals combat damage, I gain a life and draw a card. That's awesome. That's actually super great. That's like a game winner here in Momir. So now I'm going to get an extra card every turn unless he can generate a flyer. Alright. That's not a flyer. Yeah, that's a horrible one for him. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, now it's... Yeah. Getting cards in this Momir format is pretty much the game, because then you can keep on generating new creatures every turn. Or more creatures over longer amounts of turns. Alright, so 1 win in. And what's our rare? Oh, we got a mythic. Alright, an Ashiok. I'll take that. Alright, free cards, baby. Okay, so on the topic of free cards, I want to talk about card inflation. During my episode 1, I talked about how it was really the card inflation that kind of pushed me over the edge, thinking like, man, it's just probably not worth investing anymore. And I want to talk about it. Here, let me play a land so I don't hold up my opponent. This is really related to the broader topic of really 2 things happening in Magic over the last year and a half, I think, which had the 2 different things that both had the net effect of increasing the total amount of cards in the standard card pool. Let me pay 3, discard a card. So 1 was the... Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. It replaces itself, so a free 1/3. 1 was the expansion into Universes Beyond. So Universes Beyond, and this is in the context of Standard, this is Universes Beyond. Right, those sets would not have otherwise been Standard legal. And so like there had been Universes Beyond sets for a while. I can't remember exactly how long the first one was, but they were always kind of separate from Standard. So as far as like what the Standard playable card pool was, however many sets, they wanted to make 20 sets a year of that if they wanted to. It wouldn't affect Standard at all. That changed within the last year. Hold on, so I don't want to be rude to my opponent and not do anything. Let's see, a 3/5 flyer. I'll get in with... Look at the top 2 cards. Okay. I actually have no idea how this card works. Yeah, apparently I have to pay a cost for that. I have no idea how the Ring Bearer thing works. On the topic of Universes Beyond, I never played the Lord of the Rings set. But anyway, so that's 1. So now that the Universes Beyond sets are in Standard, they have essentially doubled, right? That has doubled the amount of cards in Standard. Because half of all sets that are produced a year these days are now Universes Beyond. There were 3 last year, I think, and there's going to be 4 this year. Now let me do this for 5. Because I think I have to leave a mana up in order for this to attack. Is that the case? Okay, so that essentially doubles the amount of cards in Standard. And then there's the expansion of how many years sets are Standard legal for. So it used to be a set would come out and it'd be legal for 2 years. And now that's been extended to 3 years. So then that, independent of the Universes Beyond thing, going from 2-year Standard to 3-year Standard increases the amount of cards and the amount of sets in Standard by theoretically 50%, right? So if you have 1 doubling the amount of cards and the amount of sets in Standard, Universes Beyond, and then you have another one that's increasing it by 50%, right? I'm not a mathematician. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. Right, I'm not a mathematician, but that tells me that you go up by, oh my gosh, I should probably pause the video. This is embarrassing that I can't do math.
13 minus 50, goddamn, 47.
Off the top of my head, add X mana of any one color where X is the number of... Oh, that's going to be awful. Okay. That was an awful play by me. I left a mana up. It's a lot more. And I'm going to put some numbers on the screen for you. I have the chart over here on my left. I'm going to pop it up on the screen after when I'm editing the video. If you were to go back and undo those 2 changes to Standard, the total amount of cards that would be in Standard right now, Standard legal cards, would be 6,336. Expanding into 3-year Standard and including Universes Beyond into the Standard legal sets, the total number of Standard legal cards right now that you could go onto Arena and craft is 16,980. That is a 168% increase from what Standard would have been without those 2 changes. I think I'm losing this game pretty terribly. Just for the record, I have no idea. I've kind of stopped paying attention. It kind of shows you the stair step up of like, okay, what these changes would have done incrementally if it was just one of those changes. But the combined impact of both of those changes causing a 168% increase in the number of cards. I term that, and this is just my definition of it. I call that card inflation is like real inflation.
What the economists call core inflation.
So to me, that's a you know, I'm actually just gonna. This game is getting too complicated, and I'm not doing enough thinking. I'm just here to get some free cards. But this is an important point, right? And the reason why this is a really important point, and it's more than just semantics, is because that devalues each individual card by 168%. And why that's important is because like the cost, what it takes to get a card on Arena has not changed. It costs 1,500 gems to enter into a limited event. Like you get to keep those cards, right? So you actually like, you're collecting cards as you pay in. Or let's say like these rewards that we get for events like this, where I just got an Ashiok, Mythic Planeswalker, like that adds to my collection, right? Each one of those cards, the way I think about it, is a percentage of the total collectible cards on Arena that are playable. So that's important because like there are really two benefits to doing any of these events that get you cards, or let's say paying into a pay-to-play event like a limited, like a draft format. It's not only that you get to have fun and in that event, and then also you get to potentially get gems and packs. Like in episode 9, I did a little explainer of what the reward system is, but it's also that the cards that you drafted during that event, you get to keep. And so there's the immediate value you get out of participating in those events, but then there's also the long-term value of using those cards in constructed formats. Well, if there's 168% more cards now because of these two changes that have been implemented over the last, year and a half or so, it deflates the value. It deflates the long-term value of participating in those events. This account has only been around for, not very long, right? This is episode 12, I think. I'll put back up on the screen my little scoreboard, right? And this is why this scoreboard means so much to me, and I think it's kind of like the point of this channel, is I have, in all the events I've done, and I've done draft format, I've done these little midweek things, I've crafted wild cards. Sorry, again, I don't want to be super rude to my opponent here. Yeah, but anyway, so like I haven't been this account hasn't been around so long, which is one of the main pillars of this experiment, is that I wanted to start from scratch to kind of replicate what a new player to Arena, what they would experience if you're just coming in. Because I know this is not a knock on Universes Beyond. I don't really care much about Universes Beyond, right, ruining the integrity of Magic, whatever. What it did was inflate the amount of cards in Standard. That is what I have more of an issue with the Universes Beyond change. I have, in this account, you can see up on the screen now, 1,828 cards. Those 1,828 cards represents 10.8% of the entire Standard playable card base. And so like this next chart that I'm about to pop up on the screen now shows that like that 1,828 cards relative to the size of Standard on the far right bar is what it is today, right? The 16,980 versus what it would have been if we had not made the two changes, right? If it was 2-year Standard with no Universes Beyond. Those bars, I hope, put it like kind of in perspective for you, how much that inflation of cards into the Standard card base has deflated the relative value of cards that you get. And I made a offhand comment in my last video where I talked about, hey, when you only have 10% of the cards available in Standard and an even less percent of the good cards in Standard, this third chart is what's going to kind of, this is what I mean by that. I just told you like my collection of Standard, and you can see on the screen there that that's 10.8% of cards in Standard. I added a little part to my scoreboard off to the left that shows you like what is that as a percentage of commons, uncommons, rares, and mythics. Because when I say the good cards in Standard, they're pretty much rares and mythics, right? Those are the hardest wild cards to get. Dual lands, like my mana base is sucking so much, is because that all the real good lands are rare lands. So in my opinion, those are the most valuable cards in Standard are the dual lands or the good lands. I might have 10.8% of all collectible Standard cards, but I have 3.6% of all mythics and 4.7% of all rares. The green bar on this third chart here shows you the exact same number of cards that I've collected today, right? The 1,828 cards that I've collected just with this account that hasn't been around for that long, has done a couple drafts and done a couple of messing around on the Standard ladder. I would have 28.9% of all cards in standard, 48.3% of commons, 25.6% of uncommons, 12% of rares, and 10.8% of mythics. Let's put that in perspective. Right now, I have 10.8% of all cards in standard. I would have had 10.8% of all mythics in standard if WotC had not made the changes that had been made over the last year and a half. I would have had essentially 30% of all the cards. I now have 10% of all the cards. I would have had 11% of all the mythics. I now have 4% of all the mythics. Right? That is what I mean in my videos when I say that the card inflation has led to the value deflation, because I'm still paying the exact same amount to enter these limited events. Like, it still costs me the same amount of money to collect these cards, right? You go into a limited event, you get 42 cards, right, out of a limited event, and probably 3 of those are going to be rare. 3 to 4 of those are going to be rare. I'm still paying the same amount for 4 rares, but 4 rares is a drop in the bucket. Well, it was a drop in the bucket before, but it's an even smaller drop in the bucket now when there's so many more rares in standard. Speaking of which, see what our second rare is. All right, speak of the devil, right? We get a rare land. I will take that all day long. I may never play the Ashiok. I will almost certainly play that dual land. I don't super care about the whatever the mystery cosmetic is, but let's just, for completion's sake, go ahead and get it here. That's what I wanted to rant about today, because it's an important thing to me. There's no realistic way that WotC's ever going to go back on these on these changes, right? Like, Universes Beyond is here to stay, like it or not. The other one, which the expanding from 2 to 3 year standard, I don't know how likely that really is. It's probably not very likely. It's something that's within their control, though, more so than the Universes Beyond thing. I hope they do. That'd be awesome. You can quantify the impact of doing that. Will help you and me, help us, right? Help the community. Like, you know, I'm a married father of 2 with a full-time job. Like, I love Magic. I've been playing Magic since I was a kid. But, you know, at a certain point, it's just a little bit much. Like, I'm still sitting here playing Magic, but I'm, you know, is it an absolute, like, stone cold lock that if they hadn't done, you know, either one of these 2, that I wouldn't eventually, like, you know, they wouldn't price me out? Well, maybe on the physical cards, like the physical cards are getting more expensive. A certain part of that, I'm sure WotC has no control over, right? Collectors and scalpers and all that kind of thing. But Arena is entirely within their control economically. The price that it takes to enter into a limited event, like I just mentioned, like your 42 cards that you get long-term value out of, not just the short-term value of playing a limited game. Those 42 cards have gone down in value. So a thing that they could do, in recognition of the fact that the long-term value of the cards that we as players get out of limited is lower because of the inflation of cards overall in standard, how about making it cheaper to enter into one of those events, right? Like, instead of 1,500 gems, how about that be 1,000 gems? You know, give us a 33% discount, right? Which still wouldn't make up for the 168% inflation in cards, right? But you're at least doing something, at least some kind of nod towards the player base that, hey, we just kind of devalued the value of any one of these cards that we're giving you. I don't like, and you may disagree. And if you disagree, or if you agree, like, let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to hear what other people's take on this is. Because I'm just one person in this big Magic community. I don't buy into the argument that, like, oh, well, we made standard 3 years, so you get 50% more lifetime value as far as playworthiness of any card in standard because we've made it from a 2-year viability to a 3-year viability. I don't buy that, because that is, in my opinion, completely offset by the fact that any one given card means so much less in standard, so that there's just less utility. Like, if I go into a limited event, the general overall utility I'm going to get out of those cards beyond the hour and a half that I'm playing has gone down a bunch. And for players like me, I like both limited and standard. And so it's a high value proposition for me. The fact that I get to play that limited for an hour and a half and have a lot of fun, but then use those cards to go and play meaningful games of Magic on the standard ladder. So, I think I'm going to lose this game too. Yeah, that 7/7 Trampler is gonna get me. That's pretty much that. I think I'm going to do like I've showed a couple of graphs here that I kind of like hastily put together. Take it for what it's worth. I'm just a dude who's playing a few games of Magic here and got some numbers off the internet. I got them from untapped.gg, those numbers. I'm really curious to hear anybody else's thoughts in the comments. And thank you for bearing with me as I did that. I think I'm going to encapsulate those thoughts into like a specific kind of explainer type video. I've been thinking about this. I did that. Here's how I think about the Magic Arena economy, and I did like the little Arena roadmap video in episode 9. I'm thinking about doing a video like that every week. Like just pick a topic. Like that to me was one that was important. What I just ranted about is probably going to turn into a more fleshed out version of that rant into an actual video. It's kind of like an explainer video. I have a couple of other ideas for like things that are on my mind that I would like to, particularly if you've been playing Magic for a while, you already know this. These explainer videos are really for some of the newer Magic players or those who are new to Arena, trying to figure out like, one, like what does all this stuff mean? Like maybe these videos can help somebody out there. But then also like for those who are kind of like me, like you've been playing this game for a while and you kind of just got pushed over the edge. I'm curious about what your thoughts on the matter are. So yeah, please hit me up in the comments. And also if you have other topics that are on your mind, and maybe that'll give me some inspiration for some things to talk about. I think probably the primary audience for these little rants and explainers are going to be new players to Arena. And also let me know if this was even helpful, or like, I'm going to do these midweek Magic events every week for all the reasons I explained at the beginning. It's like, it's kind of just free card collection. I figure I'm going to record these things. It's not like, particularly like here with like Momir, it's not very compelling gameplay, so I don't even know if I should record them and post them. But I figured it's like, if I'm going to, might as well like pick a topic and just rant about it. And that one was like, it's obviously very fresh on my mind. It's always been fresh on my mind because it is the thing that has motivated me to start this channel, which it's a labor of love. I'm a long way from getting paid to do any of this stuff. This is just me documenting an experiment with Magic Arena that perhaps will help somebody else down the line. Okay, I am going to concede this game. I'm going to eventually win a third game, and so I will zip forward in this editing until we get to the final victory. Finally got it. I got an Atraxa, which just basically means you win the game, I think, in any format. All right, let's see what our mystery cosmetic is here. Putrid Pals. Okay, whatever. All right, well, I hope that was mildly entertaining for some of you. I hope the rant was beneficial for some, cathartic for others. It was therapeutic for me, so thanks for letting me do that. This channel's been around for a couple weeks now. I only have 30 subscribers, but I know more people are watching, so thank you for those who are taking time to watch these things. Again, it's a labor of love. I'm just doing it because I believe in this experiment and I love Magic, even though I'm not spending any more money on it. So thanks for joining, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.